Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this project in the name of science, specifically in the name of chemistry, but furthermore, I'm John Paul Canamine, and these are my associates, Abby Gerlitz and Grayson Brown.
Hi, my name is Abby. During this project, our ultimate goal is to build a cannon, but in order to do such a thing, we must first conduct research about cannons. Today, we will be discussing the history of these technological devices.
Hello, all ye hominids. My name's Grayson. Building off what Abby stated, we will be discussing all of these to inform the viewing audience, if anyone actually in this universe will be watching us at all, of the historical background of artillery, starting back in ancient times and moving forward until today. Get ready for an explosive beginning to this great epic project in which we will most likely fail at creating a cannon. Because pessimism is great, kids! Parentheses, insert sarcastic tone while doing such things as these. Parentheses.
The three main trebuchet designs were traction machines, which were men pulling on ropes, counterweight machines, which were falling of large masses, and hybrid machines, which were a combination of both. Trebuchets were constructed mainly out of wood, but also included a main axle, a throwing arm, a beam extending to the throwing arm, a counterweight, a beam extending to the counterweight, carriage sides, a carriage base, wheels, a leather sling, and ammunition. Ammunition was usually rock, but could also be sharp wooden poles or darts, burning tar, burning sand, quicklime, dead or diseased bodies, which were both human and animal, and manure. Trebuchets were about as accurate as they could be. They were definitely the weapon of the choice due to the fact that they were capable of launching 50 to 100 kilograms about 300 feet. Due to the fact that they were the weapon of choice at this time, they had a huge role in the military and in the economy. They were used in most battles. Whoever won the battles had a major economic boost because they gained land, money, and power. Trebuchets began to become a lesser used weapon when the cannons became more popular.
Cannons, as they originally were, first originated in China, specifically the Song dynasty during its later years, and approximately during sometime in the late 12th century, and maybe even the early 13th. These cannons were originally developed from devices that would be equivalent to flamethrowers in the modern day because of gunpowder technology and things such as these. These original cannons were probably originally made out of some type of wood, most probably some type of bamboo. The Chinese made the cannons casted out of either bronze or iron, which made it much safer for the troops. This was so it wouldn't blow up in their faces as the barrel would splinter and kill the operators. However, the cannon was not widely introduced to the world at large until the Mongol Empire came around and conquered the Chinese empires during multiple campaigns in the 13th century. Eventually, whenever the Mongols collapsed, it left the Islamic world and Christendom something that they could pitch again, which was the secret of gunpowder warfare. The Europeans successfully realized the potential of their newly found devices, that being of assisting armies whenever siege warfare was involved. The most famous example in medieval history in which artillery was used during the final siege of Constantinople in 1453. The Byzantines had probably one of the most effective walls in medieval history, that being the Theodosian walls, which were over 1,000 years old. These walls defended the city from any invasion force for almost 1,000 years. This did not stop the Ottoman Empire from trying, though. The Ottomans used a special type of cannon, called a bombard, which basically was meant to break a city wall. The largest gun the Ottoman employed, known as Basilic, had a 745mm caliber projectile that shot from it. The cannon had much more influence on medieval warfare, and as the years progressed, its influence grew more and more. Eventually, during the 16th and 17th centuries, the cannon's primary goal changed. Cannon became more often used for purposes in the field in which they could be used to destroy large amount of units, so that they can cause disorder amongst enemy ranks and the likes of these things such as these. As cannons gained more mobility and as inventions as wheeled gun carriages became common for these technological wonders. Cannons also became much more deadly as they progressed into the 18th and 19th centuries as the technology increased more and more rapidly due to the Industrial Revolution. Naval warfare, which had always used cannons since the late 15th century, reached a point during the Age of Sail in which hundreds of cannons were rigged upon a sailing ship which would fire and pierce each other's hulls. Just great. Also, multiple different types of cannon shots were being more commonly used. Besides regular shot, great shot and canister shot were used, which were both brutally efficient for murdering or incapacitating and or brutally maiming massive amounts of people across its effective range. Speaking of which, artillery's effective range increased to the point where whenever there was some conflicts in which the great powers used artillery blasts from several miles away so they could force their armies to dissipate en masse.
Nowadays, there's a large diversity of cannons. Artillery today is a precise way to get ordnance down the range. Modern artillery is used in a wide range of places. On the ground, cannons can either be towed by a truck or installed on a vehicle itself. One common example would be the cannon on a tank. Out at sea, battleships use very large caliber cannons to fire shells at each other. In World War II, some guns exceeded calibers of 12 inches and had ranges of 15 to 20 miles. Though these types of cannons are not so popular today, they still played a major role in both world wars. On the coasts of our oceans, coastal artillery defends our seas from incoming attackers. Sort of a cross between naval and field artillery, they're usually large in caliber, but don't have to move. The barrels can be rifled or smooth bore, and the projectiles can either be smooth or fin stabilized. Projectiles include bursting or high explosive white phosphorus, base ejection or dual purpose conventional munitions, and nose ejection, a modern version of shrapnel, but that's only for artillery. In the tanks, we see sabot and armor piercing shells, and out at sea, armor piercing and high capacity shells dominate the theater. Late in the 19th century, nitrocellulose, aka gun cotton, was discovered to be much more powerful than gunpowder and black powder. It also produced less smoke and there was less solid residue left in the barrel. So think of it as a cleaner way to shoot projectiles. Usually these cannons, especially mortars, have to fire at targets they can't even see. Thanks to the barrel rifling and the shape of the shells, they are very accurate. A Challenger tank can hit a target the size of a football from thousands of yards away. However, there's no point in having all that accuracy if you don't know how to shoot the cannon right. So you need a whole team of people just to figure out where to shoot, confirm those coordinates, and then fire the cannon. Of course, these cannons played significant roles in the early to mid-20th century. Naval cannons reached amazing sizes and ranges. The first tanks started fighting each other in WW2. Part of Hitler's Blitzkrieg plan involved using tanks to weaken the defenses for ground troops. There have been many wars where tanks played a major role in the battle fighting, including both world wars and the Persian Gulf War. Artillery is used for everything, ranging from anti-personnel to tank defense batteries. Everywhere you look, there's some type of cannon doing some kind of work for countries of all sizes.
In conclusion, we have learned that cannons have played a major role in history in general, and will definitely have major influence on the shape of things to come. And that wraps it up for this first part of the vlog. Just remember, only when you are exposed to cannon fire will you be one with the Holy Father. Bye! Take